Hare Krishna. So we'll start the session by paying our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who's founder Acharya of this thought. We also seek blessings from our spiritual master. So we are on our journey onto the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is titled as Dhyan Yoga.
Bro, audio is not clear, looks like.
Is not clear? Should I put the headphone?
I think so.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me, but I think everyone is complaining.
I also felt this.
I'll just put.
Is this better now?
Yeah, very good.
Okay, it's fine. So the 6th chapter is titled as Dhyan Yoga, right? There are a total of 47 verses. I'll give it to you. Okay. So today we'll try to discuss the second section of this chapter, which is the stages of Astang yoga practice. Right. So last time we discussed about advancing in Astang yoga, that how Krishna started explaining that how one should continue to do Nishkam Karma, right? And Nishkam Karma is basically it involves both sannyas and detachment, right? It's like sannyas and yoga. So karma yoga is important, right? But then for how long, right? So thereafter Krishna explained the 8 stages of Ashtang yoga, right? Astang, 8 stages. So there we realize that it is at this stage of dhyana one becomes eligible to take sannyas, right? Now the practicality of this yoga, as we see, is not so much in Kali Yuga, right? We saw from our books of history, Srimad Bhagavatam, that this yoga was practicable in Satyuga, right? We saw how Dhruv Maharaj also practiced this. How many Rishi Munis, they practice this Ashtang yoga. And even in Dwapar Yuga, Arjun said that Krishna, somehow I'm not convinced about this, and then Krishna himself acknowledged, yes. And thereafter, in the last 2 verses, he would summarize that basically, the best way to connect with absolute truth is through Bhakti Yoga, right? Now, why does he then speak about Ashtang Yoga? If, every time he has to conclude with Bhakti Yoga, then the question can be asked that why does he, mention about Ashtang Yoga, right? Now, Krishna is Trikalagya. He knows past, he knows present, and he knows the future. And he knows that in Kali Yuga, there will be many cheaters. There will be many cheaters in the form of businessmen and in the form of politicians who will try to cheat general mass of people. They will just pick up one limb from one of the yoga system and advertise it that this is what yoga is all about. And what is that one limb they sell? Asanas. And that is what they conclude it as yoga, right? Many, I would not call them yogis. I will call them businessmen. Many businessmen are earning money, right? Selling that one limb of one of the yoga systems, right? and they conclude that, oh, this is yoga, and they are practicing yoga. While that can be helpful, right, for something, right? For example, I know many of you are in IT, right? And you somehow work with different hardware, software, and all those things, chips and whatnot. Now, if tomorrow someone brings you a dummy laptop, it has no software, it has no hardware inside, but it just has a just the outer thing, right? It's like a replica of laptop. So you would understand that this is not a laptop, this is a dummy thing, right? Similarly, what is happening in Kali Yuga with this yoga is that they're selling it, and Krishna knew that this is going to happen, which is why he specifically highlighted that Ashtang yoga undoubtedly is one of the way with which you can connect with absolute truth, with which you can connect with Krishna, right? But you have to follow it end to end. You have to follow it from yam to samadhi, not pick one of the limbs and you think that you can, or you think that you can directly achieve samadhi. That is also not possible. So asana, for that matter, is just a superficial thing, like a dummy laptop which has no content in it, right? Because in the section which we are going to cover today, Krishna is going to take us very deep into the science of Astang yoga. He'll say that what all you need to do and what will be the outcome of this. Practice stage of Astang yoga, goal of Astang yoga, perfectional stage of Astang yoga, right? And how one should practice Astang yoga. So all these things are covered in these verses 10 to 32. Okay, so it is very important, for us who are studying Bhagavad Gita deeply, that at least now having understood that basics, at least basics, we should not be one of those people who are cheated by these people who sell just one or two limbs of Ashtang yoga and do all those things, and maybe it may be helpful. And see, we are not saying it is not helpful for your body. It may be, undoubtedly, right? It may have some, but we are not this body. Whole science of spirituality starts with Krishna explaining that we are not this body, and you are spending one of the limbs of spirituality to maintain your body, right? So that is not the aim, right? While you can take care of the body while you aim at spiritual things, right? So undoubtedly you have to take care of your body in order to practice spiritual life. That is important. Don't just get stuck at bodily platform. Okay, so let's start the stages of Ashtanga yoga practice. Right, so there are three sections basically from 10 to 32. Practicing stage of Ashtanga yoga, basic things, what happens there, and it will describe even the goal, in verse 15, 16, 17 will be very, very important verses, like you will relish them. Then 18 to 23 basically talk about what does a practitioner do in perfectional stage of Ashtanga yoga, right? Then 24 to 32 basically, attaining perfection. What do they need to do to attain perfection, right? And in these, like 28, 29, and 30 are important verses again, while 24 to 27 are also important. Okay, so let's start with basic practices of Ashtanga yoga, right? So I will call one of you to read something. Huh? We will start with Dipesh ji. Alphabetically, we will start, right? So that everyone gets the chance. So Dipesh ji, if you can please read this.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Practices in Yoga Rudha stage. Always engaging body, mind, and self in samadhi. Living alone in a secluded place. Always carefully controlling mind. Free from all desires and possessiveness.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Dipesh ji. So now these are the practices a practitioner of Ashtang yoga needs to do, a serious practitioner, right? Always engaging body, mind, and self in samadhi, right? So, I will again highlight that our contemporary practitioners, they are not bothered with it, right? Living alone in a secluded place. Now, so-called yoga centers in Bangalore or Los Angeles or Cali, these are it is clearly said that it needs to be a secluded place, right? Because everything has its purpose. Time and place are very important. For example, when we are chanting, right, all of us have experienced this, that chanting in morning really takes us to a different platform altogether, right? And while chanting also, sitting at the same place daily in front of deities, in front of Tulsi Maharani, that really helps you, right? Similarly, when you have to do Astang yoga, right, it has to be a secluded place, right? Living alone. These are the criteria. And further it will be explained that it is not just living in a secluded place, but how you should maintain celibacy, right? How you should be sitting straight. All those things are there. Always carefully controlling the mind. Mind control is the basic of any yoga, right? And free from all desires and possessiveness. Now you please tell me, have you ever seen any of these people, they are free of any material desire and any possessiveness? No, right? So with this understanding, we will actually see through things. No one is going to, cheat us forever, right? And then in 11th to 14th, it is explained that you have to sit firmly in a clean, sacred place, not too high, not too low, on a kusha grass with a deer skin and cloth on top, right? That where you should sit, how you should sit. So Dhruv Maharaj, his mother told that you go, and search for God in forest. Where did he come? Dhruv Maharaj, to do this Ashtang yoga. Does anyone know? He came to Braj. There is a place known as Madhuban, where there is Dhruv Tila, where he did Astang yoga and had darshan of Lord Narayan. So from there, the parikrama starts usually, Madhuban. It is one of the forest of Braj Bhumi, right? There are 12 forests, one of which is Madhuban. So that time it was dense forest, and it is a sacred place, right? We have seen that some of these practitioners, they go to Haridwar, Rishikesh, right, to do practice, sincere practice. They are not doing this superficial things, right? What they have to do along with it? Fix and control the mind and do yoga for purification of consciousness, right? Purification of consciousness is the aim. And purification of consciousness cannot happen without control of mind, right? So, these are the basic practices. And then comes being erect, right? Keep body, neck, and head straight. Same line, being motionless and stare steadily at the tip of the nose, right? So it is just like why you have to focus at certain place to pacify the agitated mind. When you focus at certain point, it will pacify the mind, right? It's not going to purify, it is going to pacify, right? So that is the difference. Please note that, right? And the end is not to focus on the tip of the nose. There is something more. Meditate on my form, Machitta specifically, right? Withdraw the mind from sense objects, being fearless with vow of celibacy, right? Now, this is one more thing. Ashtang Yoga, now of the practitioners of Ashtang Yoga, who practices celibacy, you please tell me.
Don't know. No one, I guess.
Yeah. So these are basic things, na? So for
Yeah.
example, if you have to do bhakti yoga, you have to chant on beads, right? Now, if someone is saying, I'm bhakti yoga and I'm not following 4 regulative principles, I'm not chanting, then what is this? This is not bhakti yoga, right? Basic limbs, you have to follow basic limbs of particular yoga system, right? Similarly, Astang yoga also, there are basic things that you have to be celibate. Now, in Kali Yuga, you tell me how many of these practitioners of so-called Ashtang Yoga are celibate. And then make me the ultimate goal of life, Matpara, right? So here again, please try to understand. We don't have to, we have to have clarity also, one more thing, that this Ashtang Yoga is again aiming at Krishna only, right? Paramatma. Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna, right? So here Krishna is specifically saying mat chitta mat prana, right? And mat sthita, right? You should be situated, you should focus on me, right? I am the goal of everything, right? So it is clear, because sometimes people think, oh, I'm focusing on light, or sometimes people think that the soul is also super soul. Why soul is also super soul? Because I am God. So these things Prabhupada has written very elaborately the purports. So I request all of you to please go through them. Then you will very clearly understand. 10 to 32 purports are very important, right? Please go through them nicely. And then goal. Now, what is the goal of Ashtanga Yoga?
Experiencing
Nirvana. Yes, Nirvana Paramam. What is Nirvana Paramam? Paramam, what is Nirvana? Cessation of all material activities. You should you should not be attached to anything material, right? Because only when you will be detached from material things, you will get attached to spiritual things, right? Or when you get attached to spiritual things, by default, material things will go away, right? So it may be like a side effect of practicing spirituality, but that has to be there. You cannot say that, when the goal is that you will be totally detached from all these material activities. And then what will be the end result? You will achieve Krishna's planet, Mat Samstham, right? Lord Krishna's kingdom. So here it is very, very clear. See the word mama, mata, he's saying my, right? So now see, let's discuss this in little more detail. See, beyond material world, there is a Virja river, right? When you cross that, it's the spiritual sky. In a spiritual sky, the spiritual planets are there, right? So there are Lord Shiva's abode is there, right? Beyond that, Vaikuntha, Ayodhya Dham, Mathura Dham, Ayodhya Dham, Dwarka Dham, Mathura Dham, right? And Golok Vrindavan is there, right? So all these in a spiritual sky, there are there is variegatedness. These spiritual planets are there. So Krishna is saying the goal of this practice, Astang Yoga, is getting back to me, right? And we have discussed, like when we will study Srimad Bhagavatam, we will discuss that even so-called followers of Astang Yoga, right? See, in Kali Yuga, for example, in Satyuga, it was primarily this, Yuga Dharma, right? Was this yoga. But in Kali Yuga, if someone practices, it's very, very difficult. When Arjuna is saying it is difficult, you understand, right? But the practitioners of Ashtanga Yoga can go to two different paths, the end goal. In spiritual sky, some people, may end up in Brahma. And second category of people can end up in, they can develop personal relationship with super soul, right? And they can end up being in Vaikuntha planets, right? Because they are meditating on Vishnu form in awe and reverence. They can end up being in Vaikuntha planets. So there may be two classes of devotees may be there, right? Brahma, who end up in Brahm, the spiritual sky, right? The effulgence of Krishna, end up in Vaikuntha planet. That we will discuss in detail when we study Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So, Harshad Prabhuji, will you like to read this?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the jnana and dhyana schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction, being engaged in the superior service of the Lord.
Thank you very much, Harshad Prabhuji. So this is so clear, right? Prabhupada has sort of summarized everything in this purport, that how, Ashtanga Yoga, the eligibility is celibacy. Then you have to go to a secluded place, sacred place, right? Nothing, that this is not applicable for grahasthas. Then the focus should not be some light, or it should be Paramatma, Vishnu, right? So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see when Lord Kapila explains this to Mata Devoti, we will see he very clearly describes the form of Vishnu Bhagavan, right? That how beautiful is he, what is he holding, all those things. Very vividly it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So we'll see that there. And then in the subsequent purport, who will read? Harshita Mata, you will read this purport?
Yeah. The ultimate goal in life in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi according to Bhagavad Gita. A consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna, as is clearly stated herein by the Lord himself, Matchita Matpara Matsthanam, can attain real peace and can ultimately reach his supreme abode, Krishna Loka, known as Gokula Vrindavan. No one can reach the spiritual sky, Vaikunta, or enter into Lord's eternal abode, Gokula Vrindavan, without the proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion, Vishnu. The kingdom of God is everywhere, but the spiritual sky and the planets, therefore, thereof, are called Param Dhama or superior abodes.
Thank you very much, Archita Mataji. So, see, again, Prabhupada has so clearly described that this Ashtanga yoga is not for some material facility or for health and well-being, right? And a devotee who is sincerely practicing Ashtanga yoga, what he should be doing, what will be his goal, what is he going to finally achieve, right? So we should have this clarity, and people who are following, we should try to help them out. Right? Okay, now these 16th and 17th verses, they are verses which are also applicable to all of us. They're applicable to, not that the previous verses were not applicable, right? But sometimes some things are applicable to a particular varna and ashram, right? So we saw that Ashtanga yoga is primarily for celibates, right? Not for grahasthas and not for this yoga. But even then, there are few things which are applicable across the yoga systems, right? So the 16, 17 verses are very well applicable to bhakti yogis also. Okay, so Nikita Mataji, are you there? You will read this.
6.16, 6.17. Recommendation in Ashtanga Yoga. Diet, don't eat too much or too little. Sleep, don't sleep too much or too little. Regulations and habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work in yoga can mitigate all material sufferings.
Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmashu yukta sapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So now this verse is very important. These two verses, 16 and 17. Don't eat too much or too little. You eat too much, what will happen? You are seeing this person here. He'll get thousands of diseases. If you want to eat like this, you better become an elephant. Who can eat so much? You have a human body. For human body, 3.13 is applicable, right? So we have to eat after offering to Krishna, eat in adequate amount, right? This is very important for devotees. You eat in adequate amount, nice, healthy, nutritious prasad, right? Like at least try to practice like 2 hours before you sleep. Then you will have a nice sleep, and you will be able to get up with a good mind. Then you take bath, and then when you chant, you will see your body will facilitate in your chanting, your mind will facilitate. So eating in adequate quantity is important. You eat too much, you become disease. You eat too less, you will become so weak that what will happen? So eating is important, right? Even Astang yogi eating is important. So bhakti yogis, it's very important. You should take prasad, right? Then sleep. Don't sleep too much. You sleep too much, you will become lazy. And then you sleep too less, you will become crazy. Prabhupada used to say this. So you have to sleep in adequate quantity. 6 hours is an adequate quantity. Every devotee should try to sleep. And our Guru Maharaj would say, but at least don't sleep more than 7 hours, right? 6 hours are adequate. 6 to 7 hours, right? That are enough for you. We have seen that how devotees, advanced devotees, for them, they overcome sleeping. Our Arjun, one of his name is
Gudakesh.
Gudakesh.
Gudakesh. He overcome his sleep. He used to practice archery at night. He was, so even devotees like Prabhupada used to sleep at 10, he will get up at 12. From 12 to 4 o'clock, he will write his books, right? Then 4 o'clock, he will go for Aarti, and thereafter for walk, and thereafter, all different activities, writing letters, training his disciples, and taking care of the affairs, right? So regulation in habits of eating, sleeping, we have seen. Now recreation is, little recreation is important, but not too much. Then what will you do if you are too much involved in recreation, right? So little recreation is fine. For devotees, what is the recreation? Dancing in temple in front of deities, right? Distributing books is fun for us, right? Distributing prasad. All these are, we're doing Sankirtan on the streets, right? Then work. Now, this work is very important for all of us, because people will say, I have so much work, I am not able to do this. It should be ulta, because I have so much of spiritual things which I am supposed to do as a soul. I will do only enough work. Can anyone say this in the company? That is what is required. And when you will be able to say this in the company? Only when we are not asking them for promotion, we are not asking them for money. If we are not ambitious, you will rule the company. But if you want this, that, then they will drive you crazy. I can tell you from my personal experience and experience of other devotees also. So our work, Krishna is saying, see in 6.17 this. Yukta chetasya karmashu, one who work for maintenance in discharging his duties. That is important for us to understand, at this stage. We should have a disciplined lifestyle, should have check and balances, how much I am doing this thing, how, too much, too less is not. Okay. So this is established in 1918, the Yoga Institute. Now all you know what is happening there, right? In this so-called Yoga Institute. People who are going there, they want to be cheated. Prabhupada said, why there are so many, fake gurus and yogis? Because people themselves want to be cheated. They are approaching spirituality for material well-being, whether it is they want good business, good family, good health, good wealth, all these things. That is why they get all these cheaters. But if you are pure in your intent, you will get pure things. So we should develop purity. Like spirituality is for spirituality. It is not for material well-being. A side effect of spirituality can be, because yoga is all around, it gives you end-to-end benefit. But please don't get stuck in something just material thing, right? Aim is spiritual. Okay. So now we go on to the next section, which is from verse number, starts from verse number 18. So 18 to 23. Okay, so now Padma Mataji will read this.
So,
Yeah.
Jai Shri Krishna. Perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga, verse number 6.18 to 6.19. Perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. Disciple disciplines his mental activities, becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires. Example, as a lamp in a windless place, does not waver. So the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
Thank you very much, Padma. So see, this is what happens in the perfectional stage. He disciplines his mental activities, right? Situated already in transcendence. He realizes who he is and he sees, the super soul. And when can you see yourself in the super soul? Only when your mind is stable, disciplines the mental activities. Otherwise, you cannot. Mind is a via medium through which you can see. You remember that example that if there is a lake, so if you want to see the bottom of the lake, the water has to be still and clean. Similarly, if you want to see from outward within, you have to see it through mind. So mind has to be stable, clean. Then only you can see yourself and the super soul. Otherwise, we cannot. Devoid of all material desires. This, that, here, there. That will not work. Okay. Example, then Krishna gives this example in verse number 19. Is a lamp in a windless place. So what happens in a windless place? That this flame flicker. It will go straight up, right? Go up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this lamp is in a windy place. Windy place means mind is not in control. Mind is going here, there. So the flame is also. So that is, we have to become like this. So when in morning, when we are chanting, we have to try to bring our mind back again and again. We have to stabilize our mind. Very important. And then realization, perfection, samadhi of Astang yoga. So Rajesh Prabhuji will read this.
6.20223. Realization in perfection, samadhi of Ashtanga yoga. Fix and control the mind and do yoga for purification of the consciousness. Consciousness is completely restrained from material mental activities. One can see the super soul by the pure mind and is satisfied. One is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. One never departs from the truth of one's spiritual nature. Having obtained this, he thinks there is no greater gain. One is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty.
So many characteristics have been defined of one who has attained the stage of samadhi, right? These are basics like, restraint from material mental activity, one can see the soul, super soul. We read that, right? About self-realize. He sees all as soul in all his super soul and he is happy. Boundless transcendental happiness, right? And then one never departs from the truth of one's spiritual nature, right? That he is soul, right? Everyone is soul. Everyone is qualitatively same as he is. Everyone is also soul, right? In everyone there is super soul, right? And then when he is so happy, realizing that transcendental happiness with transcendental senses, when senses are purified, when we engage the senses in transcendental service of Krishna, senses will be purified. Krishna's one of the names is in relation to senses.
Rishikesh.
Rishikesh. Rishikesh means?
Who control the senses. Who is the controller of senses.
Controller and owner.
And one of the senses.
So Shanmukh ji, you are owner of your car?
Krishna is the owner of the
right? So if tomorrow our Manianji comes and he says, hey, give me the keys, I'm taking your car forever. So now the senses of are belong to whom?
Krishna.
So why are we utilizing for ourselves? That is the issue. So if we utilize the senses for Krishna, then the senses will be purified. They'll become transcendental, right? See, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. That is very important. One never departs. Having obtained these things, there is no gain. No greater gain than this. Right? Gain by going to a movie theater and enjoying a movie. Why do you go to movie theater? Why do you watch television? Huh?
Sense pleasures, momentary sense
Pleasure.
pleasures.
Temporary enjoyment.
Why do you go to this our stadium to watch cricket matches and all those things? Some temporary happiness, right? So called. Why do you go to yoga institute? Again, temporary happiness. By being healthy body, you know, you will know, I will then gratify my senses more nicely. That is the aim. That is the purpose of people, you know, why to keep the body healthy so that I can enjoy nicely. Huh? So all these are temporary pleasures. They will only give what? Yehi samsparsha hoga.
Adyan. Yeah. Measuring at the end.
All pain. Dukkha yonaya evate. Adi antavante kaunteya. Na teshu ramate buddha. Those who are intelligent, they don't get involved in these things because they are temporary. They will only give you misery. Please focus on this thing, spirituality. For there is no greater gain than this. And one who is established, who is situated in this science, he will never be shaken. You know, whatever the circumstances and situation is. Shaken in what sense? Will he not cry? Will he not be hungry? Will he not like to sleep? What? Shaken in a sense that he will not depart from his spiritual path.
Goal. Yeah. Not deviate from this.
Yes. That is important. And these things will happen gradually. You know, they will happen. We all have to have clarity and we have to practice, you know, sincerely. And you will see for yourselves, you know, you are already realizing actually having been chanting sincerely, reading Bhagavad Gita, you know, doing all these things, completing the mind control chart. So, you know, these things are so important. Then you will realize. Now, having spoken about these, Krishna will now say that what are the things you do to attain this perfection. Now, this is something little more important for all of us. Okay. So now, Ramya Mataji will read this.
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
6.24 to 6.25. Methods to attain Yoga Ruda stage. Determination without deviation. Give up material desires, born of mental speculation. Control senses with the help of mind. Final stage. Become situated in trance by mean of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the super soul alone and should think of nothing else.
Thank you very much. Now, determination without deviation. This is very important because, and you know, there is a verse. Shanmukh Prabhuji, which verse is that?
Vyavasayatmika buddhi.
Yeah, that.
Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekena kurma.
2.44.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one. Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam tayapapruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhir samadhav na vidhiyate.
So this determination, what is the problem? Why don't we get determined? You know,
Because we are attached to Bhogaisvarya.
yeah. You know, you read the, see this Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has given all the solution and all the root cause analysis has been done. So sometimes we think from tomorrow, I will get up at 5 o'clock and I will now do this, this and this. But then tomorrow, 5 o'clock, the alarm will ring and then you will snooze it. And then you will realize you have finally woke up at 7 o'clock. Now, what is the problem? The problem is 2.44. Bhog Aishwarya Prasaktanam Teyapartha Chetasam Vyavsayatmika Buddhi. Vyavsayatmika Buddhi means determination. Focused. Determination is not samadho na vidhyate. You will not be able to. Why? Because we are too much attached to sense, pleasure, and material opulence. Bhog and Aishwarya. If we will eat too much, see, I usually request that eating we already discussed. One more thing, before sleeping, you know, read half an hour some Krishna book, something, or do chanting, some devotional, hear something, and then sleep nicely, you know. And according to Ayurveda, sleep before 12 o'clock is twice as good as sleeping after 12. So if you sleep at 9 o'clock, it will be like, you know, from 9 to 12, it will be 3 hours so-called, but it will be equivalent to 6 hours sleep. And then if you can get up at 3 o'clock, so 6 plus 3, 9 hours. But if you sleep at 12 o'clock and if you get up at 6 o'clock, it will be just 6 hours. So your body will feel fatigued and, you know, you will feel restless and you will not be able to focus and concentrate. But if you sleep early, you will not feel that. And I tell you, you start sleeping early. It will be initially little discomfort. That today Nikita Mataji was taking one class for a new batch, and she was talking about modes of material nature. In modes of material nature, it was described that people in mode of goodness, a characteristic of things that initially the things which you do in mode of goodness, they little discomfort, little pain, but at the end the result will be nice. After some time, you know, in 6 months, you will start relishing that morning time, you know, from 4 to 7 a.m. You will become so much addicted to that you will like to sleep early and get up early. That's so, you know, it's so peaceful. When we were in Vrindavan, you know, we used to go daily to Mangla Aarti there. And then after that, we used to go very frequently on parikrama. You know, it was so peaceful. There would be peacocks, different birds, Yamuna river will be there. You know, so nice. And here, even here in Bangalore also, like, you know, we are getting up very early, all of you, you know. So before, at around about 4:20, 4:30, we wake up our deities, we do aarti. And then we start chanting our rounds, you know. Then we end up again with Tulsi Aarti and deities Aarti and all. It is so, it gives so much of pleasure, peace of mind, you know. It purifies our mind. So that is addictive, you know. But that determination will only come when you are free from these two things. These two things are the root cause. Your desire to gain more and more material opulence. Please try to understand this material opulence is for this body. It is not going to do anything for the soul. And sense gratification again is for this body. And please, once you read 2.44, please read this 5.22 also. Yehi samay sparsh jab hoga. All these things what we are doing, these are ultimately going to give us pain. nothing more than that. Dukha yonaya evate. Eva means certainly. It will give pain. So we should try to cultivate that determination. Okay. Give up material desires born of mental speculation. Don't speculate anything on your own. For example, speculating some spiritual books that this is that. And Krishna clearly says here, which verse is that, Shanmugji? Traigunya Vishaya Veda?
44. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nidvandu Nityasatvastu Niryogakshema Atman.
Which verse number is that?
2.45.
2.45. That clearly Krishna is saying, leave aside all the different Vedas, because primarily they are talking about three gun, three modes of nature. I am giving you the summary. 15.15 again he says, I am giving you the summary, and summary is to know me. It is, and Bhagavad Gita is the summary. It is the summary of Vedanta Sutra, basically. Commentary on Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. Summary of Vedanta Sutra is Bhagavad Gita. Those verses will come later in 16th chapter, 15th chapter, sorry. Purushottam Yoga. So, but this is important, mental speculation. I read that Upanishad, that thing, it is saying that, then you will get stuck in that only. Don't speculate. Please try to get, clarity, philosophically also, and under the guidance. Then control senses with help of mind. Make your mind a friend. Don't make it an enemy, and then control the senses. If mind is able to control the senses, always see the picture of those horses. 5 horses, and they are controlled by intelligence through the mind. How we'll develop intelligence? Again, 2.66. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavna nachapaveta shantirashant. So that, when you go really deep, the way we are going in Bhagavad Gita, you will get clarity. Krishna is clearly saying what you have to do. There will not be any confusion. Then final stage will be what? Become situated in trance by means of intelligence, not just intelligence, sustained by full conviction. And how will you be convinced?
And the mind is stable.
Mind is stable. You associate with devotees. You read Bhagavad Gita. You read Srimad Bhagavatam. Then your intelligence will be fully convinced. Otherwise, intelligence will keep going here and there. And then the mind should be fixed on Super Soul alone, right? And should not think of anything else. So here is a good story. Does anyone know this story of Sparrow, Garuda in the ocean? And Nikita Mataji, you please recite this story. You can recite? You are free? Rest are coming. Madhvi Radhika, you will recite? Sometimes.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, so one small sparrow was there, and this sparrow laid eggs on the shore of the ocean. Okay, so the waves of the ocean carried away the eggs with it. So now when the sparrow came back, she found that the eggs were not there. So she thought that the ocean might have taken it. So she asked the ocean to give them back, but the ocean did not return them back. So she made a pledge that she will dry up the ocean. She's such a small sparrow, but she made a great pledge that if ocean doesn't return back the eggs to her, she will dry up the ocean. So she started taking little water in her beak and then emptying it on the shore itself. So she didn't knew that the water will again mix with the ocean only, but she was effortlessly doing that. And this thing reached this pledge of the sparrow reached the ears of Garuda. Okay, Garuda is the carrier of Vishnu, and he's the king of the birds. So he thought that my small little sparrow bird is struggling so hard,
to dry up the ocean, so I must help her. So Garuda reaches that ocean and he asks ocean to return back the eggs. And he also says that if he doesn't, then he will dry up the ocean. Now the ocean is afraid because Garuda has the capacity to dry up the ocean. So the ocean returns back the eggs of the sparrow back to her. So
Thank you.
this is the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, see, now you have to tell me one thing. We have this sparrow, ocean, and Garuda. Now we are just telling this story for a reason, right? Now, in the topic which we are discussing, who is sparrow, who is ocean, and who is Garuda? How is that determination related to us? So who will tell you?
Garuda is Paramatma.
Okay, now Shanmukh-ji, someone else will say.
Sparrow is we.
Sparrow is?
Ourselves, we.
Ourselves.
We are
Okay, now third
sparrows.
person will say, what is ocean? Who
Ocean
will say?
is the materialistic world.
Padma Mataji, what ocean is?
Ocean is the material world.
Someone else will try to say what is ocean. Not the one who have already told. Someone else. What is ocean? Everyone should try. Padma Mataji said it is material world.
Our desires.
Okay, Harshad Prabhuji is saying our desire. Who else will say? If everyone will try, at least we'll get something. We should all try. Dipeshji, what do you think? What it is? What is ocean? What are we trying to, do as a soul? What are we trying to do?
Not able to get through because I don't think it's the material world. I am not sure whether that is the distraction also, but
Can it be mind?
Yes, that is mind, Santosh Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dipesh Prabhuji. Thank you, Padma Mataji. Thank you, Harshad Prabhu. Thanks, Rajesh Prabhuji and Sharma Prabhuji. So this is a nice story where, see, what do? We are trying to control the mind. Arjun will say, Krishna, I can control wind, but don't talk about controlling the mind. I cannot do that. So can we do that? If Arjun cannot do that, do you think we can do? So can a sparrow dry the ocean? No. But if we try our best, if we are determined, if we are convinced, then with help of Krishna, the way Garudaji helped Sparrow, Krishna is going to help us. And we'll be, but that determination should be there. Determination will only come when we are free from bhog and ashwar, desire, these things, that is very important for us to understand, right? So we should always remember this. It may be very difficult, and that is why we will see that how bhakti yoga is always dependent on Krishna's mercy, while all these different other paths are dependent on the prowess of the self. That is why they are very difficult. Krishna will say in 12th chapter that, my dear Arjun, this is very difficult, right? So see, Arjuna saying difficult, and then when Krishna says difficult, Krishna also acknowledged that controlling mind is difficult. And Krishna there also said that the path of Gyan is very difficult. So that is where in path of Bhakti, Krishna's hand is always there. Now comes again another important verse. Now, okay, Ishwar Prabhuji, will you like to recite this verse?
Okay, we'll try this success formula in yoga, bringing the mind back. Yato nischalati manas chanchalam ashiram astiram tatas tato niyamayitat atmaneyava vasam nayat.
Very nice.
From wherever the mind wanders, Due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
Thank you, Isha Prabhuji. So this is important. This verse is again very applicable to all of us. Yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyamitat atmani eva vasham nae. So every morning we see this happening, and we will try to bring it back. Mind goes here and there. We are trying to, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then mind will go, oh, today I have to cook this thing. But this vegetable is not enough. Okay, then I will cook this thing. Okay, oh, this person told me this thing yesterday. What should I do? Okay, my son exam is there. This is there, that is there. But then we will remember what 6.26 yato nischalati. We have to bring it back from wherever it goes. What we have to do? We have to get it back. Niyamit. Tatas tato niyamita. We have to bring it back in control. Control of what? It's control of self. Atmani eva vasham nae. To control. So we should try to do that. This is very important, right? Controlling the mind. Practice that. And thereafter. Okay, so Santosh Prabhuji, now you will read this.
Yeah, so attaining perfection in Ashtanga Yoga 6.27 Brahmabhuta platform realizing Atma. The yogi whose mind is peaceful by being fixed on me attains transcendental happiness. Sukham Uttamam. He is devoid of passion, free of sin, and realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, Brahmabhutam.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, this is, what is the meaning of word Shanta?
Transcendental peace.
Peace, huh? And Prashanta means? Even more, very steady, very peaceful, right? Shant and Prashant. Yogis whose mind is peaceful. Huh? How? By being fixed on me. And then what does he see? You cannot experience the transcendental happiness until unless you are Shant. Even that Nasti Buddhi Rektasya huh? Na bhavayatu shanti ashantasya kutha sukham. Here also, if you are not peaceful, how will you be happy? Now, but once you are Shant, by being devoid of any passion, free of sin, if you are free of passion, then you can attain this Shant state. Shanta Rajasam. This word I have not written here. This devoid of passion. It is Shanta Rajasam, free of passion. Peace by being free of passion. Then you will attain Prashant Man. You will then achieve two things: Sukham Uttamam and Brahmabhuta platform. And there is also one word here used as Akalmasham. That you will be free from all past sinful reactions. You will become free from all past sinful reactions. So that is important. Being free from passion, being free from sinful reactions, then you will be able to achieve what? Prashant Man and Uttam Sukha and Brahmbhuta platform. Brahmbhuta platform means that realizing.
Self-identifying oneself with Paramatma.
Yes. That we are also what? We are his part and parcel. 15.7. Mavimansho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Part and parcel. If you pick up a drop from the ocean, a drop of from ocean will also be salty, right? So we will realize that. Now we are thinking we are independent of Krishna. No, these senses are mine. These senses are not of Krishna's. So when we align ourselves with Krishna's desire, then we will be able to achieve this stage. And thereafter, furthermore in 6.18, so now Shanmukh Prabhuji, will you read this?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Brahma Bhuta platform, attaining perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. 6.27.
2.8. 2.7 we already listened.
Yeah. 6.28. Brahma Sparsha platform, realizing Paramatma. Thus, by constant practice, the self-controlled yogi becomes free from all material contamination, Vigata Kalmashaha, and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service of Lord Brahma Sparsham. He is called Jivan Mukta, liberated even in this life.
So again, here, this word kalmasha is used. Here, in previous words, it is akalmasha. Here, vigata kalmasha, vigata jwara. You remember this verse came?
Get rid of.
Get rid of, free from, kalmasha, free from. So once we have a practitioner, it all started with yam niyam. You remember do's and don'ts. Then you do asan, pranayam, pratyahar. Pratyahar again is same. You know, ahar means gratifying senses. Pratyah means no gratification of senses. Dharana, you start focusing, dhyan, deep meditation, samadhi, you realize. So you are free from all these sinful and achieve highest stage of perfect happiness. Sukhena, the word sukhena is used. And then Brahma is samasparsham. What? That what will happen? You come in direct contact with Krishna. Brahma is Sparsham. You become direct contact. So Chetan Charan Prabhu explains that it does not mean that direct touch is not about physical touch. It is about that your consciousness will become Krishna consciousness. You do everything for Krishna. You are aligned. Jivere Sarup Hoye Nitya Krishna Das. Right? And in that stage, you will be in a Jivan Mukta platform. Even in this life, you will be liberated. So this is important again. Previous was Brahma Bhuta, right? This is Brahma Sparsha. So realizing
one question. So here it is like Brahma Bhuta, Brahma Bhutam, qualitative identity with Supreme. But here we are saying perfect happiness in transcendental love and service to the Lord. Is this talking about bhakti?
Yes. See, in Paramatma realization also there is transcendental.
Yes.
Thing, right? So that loving service. See why Prabhupada is writing here transcendental loving service. Because in this verse number 28, the word mat or mam is not used. But in verse 29, words mama and mata is used. So it is Krishna is directly referring to himself. Previously also we saw mat para, mat chitta, mat astam, right? So that is why the word has been used as transcendental loving service, right? Brahma Sparsham as transcendental, that. Why? Because there is happiness, right? And there is a happiness, then there is love. Primarily, those who will focus, those who are purely Astang yogis, they meditate on Vishnu form, Paramatma. Their meditation is more in awe and reverence. But even meditation in awe and reverence brings them happiness. Brings brings the happiness, ultimate happiness, transcendental happiness, right? But here the word is being used transcendental loving service because Prabhupada knows in subsequent word Krishna here also is talking about himself only. That is why this Brahma Sparsham is, you know, transcendental loving service is being used here. Constant touch with the Supreme. Is it fine, our dear Shanmukh Prabhuji?
Yes.
Okay. So now who will read this? This I have picked up from Gita Daily website. Chetan Charan Prabhu has nicely explained these verses. So now we'll go back again. Deepesh Prabhuji, you will read this.
Yeah. On the path of yoga, aspirants may begin by focusing on some neutral object, such as the tip of the nose, Bhagavad Gita 6.12, or the space between the eyebrows, 5.27. While such focus is more pacifying than focusing on the things that trigger or anger within us, we need to graduate to focusing on objects that are not just pacifying, but are also purifying. Without purification, we remain vulnerable to being ambushed by our inner impurities. They may act in collusion with outer temptations to distract us. Gita wisdom reveals the ultimate reality, Krishna, to be all pure and all purifying. Focusing on him purifies our mind, thereby purging it of its distracting passions and pacifying it. 6.27. For the pacified mind, concentration requires far less exertion and brings far greater satisfaction.
Such nicely he has explained this. You know, it's like summarizing, because our devotees sometimes they get confused. Why here it is said that focus in between eyebrows and on nose? So it will pacify the agitated mind, right? But for further purification, you have to focus on something more. You have to focus on Krishna or on Paramatma, right? Because Krishna is all pure, Krishna is all purifying, right? And then that purified mind will help us to sort of get a immunization from all the material diseases. It's like getting vaccinated. So that is very important for us to understand, right? So thereafter, okay, then Harshad Prabhuji, you will read this.
6.29 and 30. Vision of a perfect yogi is Paramatma or Krishna everywhere. Observes me in all beings, Shirodakshayi Vishnu, and also sees every being in me, Mahavishnu, inconceivable potency of Lord. Sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Wow.
So thank you very much, Harshad Prabhuji. So this is the vision of a perfect yogi. Sees Paramatma or Krishna everywhere. Observe me. So here again, as we discussed in the previous words when Shanmukh Prabhuji was asking that question. So in this verse, if you read the Sanskrit, Krishna has time and again used mam, mai. So observes me in all beings. Observe me in all beings means observing Paramatma, right? And we know there are 3 Purusha incarnations, right? 3 Purusha incarnation. Rajesh, Mahavishnu.
Mahavishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Yes, very nice. So, yeah. So from Mahavishnu, who comes?
Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Yes.
Kshirodaksha Vishnu.
Yes. So Mahavishnu is like a
Krishna's.
Yes. So Mahavishnu is like a super soul for the entire material creation. Okay. Mahavishnu is like a super soul for the entire material creation. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is like a super soul of one universe. and Shirodaksha Vishnu is a super soul of one entity. Okay, so observes me in all beings. Yes, Paramatma is there in everywhere, and also sees every being in me. Now, how is this? He is everywhere and everyone is in him. He is in everyone and everyone is in him. So Shirodaksha Vishnu is there in everyone, and as Mahavishnu, we are also in him, right? Did you understand? Shirodaksha Vishnu is in everyone, and all the living entities, finally, we are in
Part and
Mahavishnu.
parcel. Part and
Right.
parcel.
So
That's
this is
what you meant.
yes,
Prabhuji,
yes.
when
Yeah.
we say also sees every being in me, we are the like drop of the ocean, and Mahavishnu is like.
No, we all, in one breathing we are out, one other breathing,
Yeah, that's
inspiration,
correct.
expression, we are in. So we are in him, na,
Okay.
in Mahavishnu.
Inhalation. Okay.
Hai na? So we are in Mahavishnu, na. So,
Yes.
and also this is what is achintya, bheda abheda tat. Achintya, sometimes Krishna's these potencies are inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
We don't understand. So this is one of those inconceivable potency, So sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Yes. So how do we see Krishna everywhere? We will see that in 7.4, 7.5 and 7.6. Krishna says that everything is my energy, inferior energy, these 8 things, Panch Mahabhuta and Ahankar, Manabuddhi. And then in 7.5, he says that beyond these inferior, there is superior, which is, we are a living entity, right? And then finally, he says that everything in this material spiritual world, I am the source, right? So sees me, the supreme, because now if you see anything is energy of Krishna, anything is property of Krishna, you see him, right? So if for example, child is at home and he knows that, he didn't see father coming, but he saw that father office bag is there, his shoes are there. By seeing the shoes and office bag, he'll say father is here already. He will remember father. Hai? So that is how, by seeing the material nature, we see Krishna. Devi Asha Guna Mai Mam Maya Durte. This is my material name. Hai? So that is important. Then for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. For such person, how can Krishna be lost? Because he sees everything in Krishna's thing, right? So that is where it is important. These verses are important. Actually, there is a very deep study of these scriptures that is known as Bhakti Shastri course, where we study 4 scriptures, one Upanishad, Ishopanishad, and then Bhagavad Gita, and Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion. These are 2 important books written by Rup Goswami, which is a lot of nice, description of devotional activities and all is there. So we do, this is, in that you will study these things in great detail, further detail. So for now, it is just an introduction type of thing. Although we are also going in great depth, in at least in Bhagavad Gita for now, right? So the final 2 verses of this section, action of a perfect yogi, 31 and 32. What does he do? So now Harshad Prabhuji will read this.
Sure. 6.31 and 6.32. Action of a perfect yogi. Worships me as one, though situated in all entities as super soul, and thus exists in me in all circumstances. See all beings equally by comparison to his own self, and considers their happiness and distress his own.
So worships me as one, right? Though situated in all entities as super soul, understanding that super soul is expansion of Krishna and does exist in me in all circumstances. We all exist in Krishna, right? Because we are situated in his energy, right? See all beings equally by comparison of to his own self. We are soul, they are all soul. Everyone is a soul, right? So we know that we are Mame Vansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So we are all soul. We are part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore, he will consider or she will consider others' happiness and distress as his own. Why do we go for book distribution? Why does Krishna says in 18th chapter that those devotees who preach this science to others are very dear to me, most dear to me? Why? Because why we are doing this preaching, book distribution, all these things, because we see distress of others as our own distress. It feels so bad when you see people suffering, so you want to help them, right? And when they are doing spiritual practices nicely, then you will feel so happy about it, right? That is what it considers their happiness and distress as its own, right? Now finally, now Arjuna has heard a lot about primarily Astanga yoga. So Harshad Prabhuji, you please read what is in Arjun's mind.
Arjuna felt that such vision cannot be long lasting. One can maintain such equal vision for friends or neutral persons, but not for enemies. So Arjuna now speaks to Krishna that the practice of Ashtanga yoga is difficult.
Krishna explained many things. Finally, Arjun will say, Krishna, it is all good, but it's not applicable. So now thereafter, moving forward from 33 to 47, which Krishna willing we'll try to cover in next session, we'll see, very nice discussion between Arjun and Krishna about, what is what, the practicality of Astang yoga, mind control, destiny, of an unsuccessful yogi, and then who is the highest yogi. All these topics, nice. If it will be better if you can come prepared, read through those purports and verses nicely.
There's one question.
Huh.
So, did Arjuna feel that the practicing Ashtanga yoga is difficult? Because once you practice Ashtanga yoga, you will achieve and reach to that state of equal vision, right? So, what is his? I think his confusion is not like maintaining such vision is difficult, but probably achieving to that state is difficult through Ashtanga yoga, correct?
See, equal vision through Astang yoga and through Nishkam yoga, what were we doing? If you remember that verse, Vidya Vinay Sampanna, that equal vision came through Nishkam. You remember?
Yes.
That time Arjun didn't ask. You remember that?
Yes. So what is his exact question? I'm not able to understand.
His exact question will come in next session.
Yeah.
His exact question will come in next session. So somehow Arjuna will get convinced by himself. So because this Astang yoga, he understood. Krishna is explaining it has to be practiced in secluded place. You have to be celibate and all that. What he wanted to do, run away from the war field. Huh? Run away from war field, what for? Krishna says, you do all these things then. Arjun will say, Krishna, I cannot do all this. This is not. Krishna is bringing him back to square one.
Center.
Yes.
Yeah, back to the center.
That is why I explained you. Then Krishna will finally say, see, I have to explain this. Why? Because this Kali Yuga people, I have to tell them that what is actually Astang yoga, where is it applicable, or how it is done, right? But for us, right? Kalo tadhari kirtanad bhakti yoga, regardless, is the highest, right? So you better practice that. And thereafter, when 6.47, it is like a seed verse, and thereafter in next 6 chapters, Krishna primarily will talk about bhakti yoga. So yeah. Okay. Any other question or comment?
So can you explain true self is the highest order?
Pardon?
True self is the highest order.
From which verse? You are referring this.
What's number 32 only, sir? 6.32. Happiness and distress, he is feeling like others have happiness and distress. He is thinking that of his own experience.
Yeah, so I just explained that why do we go for book distribution, right? Why do we distribute prashadam, right? Why do we preach, right? Why does Krishna says that he is that my dear most devotee who teaches this science, of Bhagavad Gita or Bhakti Yoga to other devotees? Why? Because, for example, if Padmaji, there are Padmaji's friend, Lavanya ji, and some other friends, right? Shirisha ji and others. So Padma Mataji thought that this is something nice. This is going to give me happiness, ultimate happiness. So she will always like to connect all her people to, because they are getting happiness. Now, if Padmaji see they are in distress, she will like to connect, she like to help them out, right? Why? Because she sees them as suffering and she wants to give them happiness. Now, when this vision is not just for friends and relatives, but it is for everyone. Like, why did Prabhupada go to West? These were all so difficult people to be priest. And he went through cargo ship. Why? He didn't differentiate between an Indian and American and African or, anyone else, Australian, Japanese, Chinese. He gave everything to everyone because he could see that these material things will not give them any happiness and they are all in distress. So that is the vision of a yogi. That is, see equally the vision by comparison of his own self. Because he knows he is a soul. He knows from where the ultimate happiness will come. The source is Krishna, right? The source is Paramatma. So when these people who are trying to find happiness from material things, yehi sam sparsh bhoga dukha yonaya ko evate adi antvant kaunteya na teshu ramate buddha. He knows that very well, that these people are only suffering. They want to help. And they know what is the Sarup. Jivare Sarup hoy Nitya Krishna Das. So then they will finally want everyone to be engaged and involved in service of Krishna. Engage all our senses in service of Rishikesh. Engage everything in service of Krishna. 5.29. Bhokta Aram Yaga Tapsam. He is the Bhokta of all the Yaga and Tapasya. So Bhoktaram Yaga Tapsam, Sarvalok Maheshwaram. He is the proprietor. He is the proprietor, controller, enjoyer. Suhridaya Sarva Bhutana. He is our well-wisher. And the person who knows this, then will attain peace and happiness. Right? So that is the vision of a devotee. That is the vision of a true devotee who has true vision, who sees everyone as, doesn't differentiate on a bodily platform. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is related to, in another sense, 5.18 also same, right? See, comparison to his own self.
Yeah. 5.18 is that Vidya Vinay, right?
Yeah, it's same. Knows that we are the soul and also everyone is super soul.
Yes.
So that's how the equal vision, and can feel others' happiness and distress on his of his own.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. Yes. Any other question or comment? Okay, if not, Hare Krishna. Just a second.